and welcome to Gen Z Finance. I'm an older Gen Z here on YouTube documenting my financial journey. I usually do this by using YNAB or You Need a Budget. There will be a link down below in the description if you're interested in trying it out for yourself to budget my bi-weekly paychecks, track my spending, and update my net worth. Those are my usual videos you'll find on my channel. But today's video is a bit different. I'm going to be forecasting and planning out my 2021 rough annual budget. So the purpose behind this exercise and why I go through it every year or anytime I get a new job is to lay out my paycheck deductions to get a guesstimate and a sense of what my net paycheck and monthly take home will be. And that will help me determine how much I can realistically put towards my investing and savings goals for the year after factoring in my fixed and variable monthly expenses. It also allows me to really get a sense of what my cash flow will be, and that cash flow is what I use to help reach some of my savings and investing goals. So the way I do this is I've created this beautiful little spreadsheet here. I'm sure it looks very busy upon first glance, and it is kind of busy to do this for me. So this is a version of a spreadsheet I've been using for about 2 or 3 years now, and it works pretty well for me. When I compared what I entered into my spreadsheet for 2020 versus what actually happens on my pay stubs, I found I got within $3. My net paycheck was within $3 of what I had entered into my spreadsheet. So again, it works pretty well for me. And depending on your situation, I think you might find the spreadsheet helpful as well. So I do have a link down below to copy the spreadsheet, and the copy of the spreadsheet will come with a bunch of instructions. I also have a link down below to a video where I walk through this entire spreadsheet in depth. I'm going to try not to do that too much in this video just for the sake of time because there are lots of parts to it. So if you notice me skipping lines or skipping sections, just assume it doesn't really factor too much into what my logic is. I've already taken that into consideration, and if you're interested in more information, you can check out that video and link down below. As a disclaimer, this is going to work best for people who have a steady W-2 income and not work as well for people who are self-employed or who work outside of the United States, because this does assume United States federal income tax rate and federal tax structure. So with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the spreadsheet. I'm going to fill this out as I would normally, and just to know, this does all fit on one screen of the Google Sheets without having to move around if you're at 100%, but just to kind of help and make sure everyone can see the numbers clearly, I'm going to zoom into 125. So starting at the top, my annual salary is $60,000 and I'm paid bi-weekly, which means my gross pay per check is about $2,307. My pre-tax 401k, how much I plan to contribute, I'm going to start with 20%, and then later on in the video you'll see how I use the numbers the spreadsheet calculates to help me either increase or decrease that number as necessary. And then I do have an HSA because I have an HDHP, and the 2021 maximum contribution is $3,600. However, my company contributes $500 on my behalf, which means I only need to contribute $3,100 to meet that goal. So I will be doing $3,100 for the year, and my medical insurance premium is $36 per paycheck. That is a $2 increase per paycheck from 2020, which isn't awful, but it also represents like a 6% increase. And then I don't have any dental or life insurance premiums with my company, but I do have vision insurance, so that's another $350. I have no other pre-tax deductions. And then, although I am paid bi-weekly, my HSA is actually only ever taken out of the first 2 paychecks of the month, which means I actually need to divide my $3,100 HSA contribution by 24 instead of the 26 that you might normally expect. I have no state or local income tax, so that will remain at 0%. And then quickly, I'm just going to come over here and yep, I am single. I'm taking the standard deduction, and then I'm going to ask that an extra $10 is withheld from every paycheck, which means my total taxes, my Social Security, Medicare, and then federal income taxes will equal to about $310 per check. For my Roth 401k, I'm going to try to reach 4%, and then I will have no other post-tax deductions. So that should be all of my deductions for my paycheck. And all of this will calculate into this summary section. This is really the meat and bones of the spreadsheet. So my net paycheck, based on what I have entered in the calculations, will be about $1,275, which means my monthly income based on a 2 paycheck month, since I'm paid bi-weekly, this is going to assume 2 paychecks, will be right at $2,550. And then this monthly expense line, this number is being pulled in from the bottom over here, and this section is where I kind of, again, forecasted and planned out what I would be contributing every month to these budgeted categories. If you've seen any of my bi-weekly budgets on YNAB, and if you haven't, there will be a link up here for you to watch and check one out. Then a lot of these categories will look very familiar to you. For the most part, I'm expecting to have the same categories and roughly the same category structure that I had in 2020, but I am changing up some of the amounts and what I want to contribute every month towards them. So I've gone ahead and added all of this in before I started the video, again, just for the sake of time. And I have these broken out into 2 sections. The blue is spending categories and the purple is savings categories. So together I consider these all my main monthly expenses, but blue is money that eventually I expect to spend, whether that's, my monthly bills to my mom, my subscriptions, my monthly varied categories, or even some of my sinking funds, where, for example, gifts, I might not spend $100 every month, but by the end of the year, I do expect to spend about $1,200. Similarly, I might not spend, $50 a month on car ownership, but if something happens during the year, and I have to spend, $600, well, that's okay. I've already budgeted for it. It's factored into my expenses. So it's money that I do eventually expect to spend versus stuff that I would consider saved, even if I eventually do have to spend out of this money or this category, even if it's, next year or whatever. For the most part, this is what I just consider my savings categories. What is spending or savings categories for you might be completely different. But for me, it includes my emergency fund, saving for my deductible for 2022, saving for a new car, and then my Roth IRA would also be considered a monthly saving expense. So again, all of that is calculated and put into this summary section, and it leaves me with this orange highlighted line called monthly excess slash buffer. And for me, this is one of the most important numbers and calculations on this spreadsheet and something that I really look at and study for my yearly budget. So I personally, while I do try to follow a zero-based budget, I do a zero-based budget per paycheck, not necessarily per year or per month. I do like to have around $200 to $250 a month of extra cash flow that is not already designated to any one category. So for instance, if an expense comes up in the middle of the month, like oh, maybe there's a costume party going on at work and I need to go out and buy a costume and I might not have any extra money in my budget or in any specific category to cover that. Oh, that can just kind of come out of my excess cash flow. It doesn't really matter. Or another reason why I like to have an excess cash flow is if a new expense comes up in the middle of the year. For instance, at the beginning of 2020, I was not saving for giving to my dad. And as the year went on, I decided that that was a category I wanted to add into my normal expenses. So something like that might happen for me again in 2021, where maybe I decide that one category or another either needs to be added or a current category needs to be increased. And I can easily do that and work through that with the extra monthly excess and buffer I have without having to either lower my deductions or change too much of the money that is already budgeted for certain expenses. So exactly how much excess or buffer you want is up to you, but I do like to see around, like I said, $200 to $250. So this 366, that's way more than I need. This is where I start to look back at my deductions and see, okay, well, I haven't met the 401k maximum yet, so maybe I can increase my pre-tax 401k from 20% to 23%. Let's see what that looks like. That would drop my monthly excess slash buffer to around $244.80. I have a little note here that I recommend a $5 to $10 buffer just in case the math is off. So let's round that down to $240. I think that's a good number for my cash flow, but this year I'm trying to be a bit more intentional with my extra money, and I still want to kind of create a plan for that money, which is why I have this category here. So, in a perfect month, if everything goes well and I don't need to tap into that money, what do I want that money to do for me? Again, this is going back to creating a zero-based budget, even if you need to fudge it or roll with the punches a little bit. So for me, I know I probably want the majority of that to be going into my brokerage account. So let's see if I can get $200 into my brokerage account. That would be roughly 82% of the entire monthly excess and buffer. And maybe I'll put the extra $40, maybe I'll keep that in cash savings. That $40 might be something I put into my holding or end of year bonus category, which a lot of my viewers might be familiar with because they see me put a whole lot more than $40 a month into that category now. So, again, this excess monthly budget plan is another way for me to be a little bit more intentional and a bit more planning. If I decided that, okay, I'm already saving $400 for a new car, but I really want any extra money that I have to continue to go to that new car, maybe I would put all $240 into that category. So this is just one way to use it. So with those sections, that's pretty much like the bulk of the budget planning sections. And the other sections left just revolve around planning out investing and savings goals for the year. You've heard it here first. I'm going to go ahead and share with you all what my investment goal is for 2020, and it is $30,000, which would be pretty much exactly 50% of my gross pay. There are a couple of reasons I think I can reach this goal. If you're not familiar with my situation, I do live at home with my mom, and this $400, it pretty much covers my car insurance, my phone bill, and then like all of my groceries. And then I obviously don't have a rent payment or utilities. That's kind of all covered within the $400 that I give to her every month. So obviously my monthly expenses are very low, which I think is the main reason that I am capable of perhaps achieving this. And this is kind of the plan that I'm going to fill out to show you how I think I can do this. So my pre-tax 401k and my Roth 401k are already calculated for me based on what is entered over here in the pre-tax deductions. For my HSA, I'm going to contribute 3,100 and my company is going to contribute 500, which means I will be investing the full 3,600. And then I do have a FICA alternative plan, which is a retirement plan that I have through my part-time job. I only expect to be able to put around $200 into there, but I am going to include that. And then for an employer match, I do expect to get an employer match this year. I'm not exactly sure when it will be deposited because they do like one lump sum. And I'm not exactly sure how much that will be because this is my first year with the company. But I'm expecting around $1,000 for an employer match. And then for my IRA, I have a Roth IRA and I will be maxing that out at $6,000. So this total sums up everything that I've already allocated, and then the difference is the difference between what I have my goal set as and what I currently have allocated for. So that means that I would need to put $3,000 into my brokerage account to meet my investing goal. Or I now look at this number and I look, do I really want $3,000 in a taxable brokerage account? Maybe some of that money would be better placed in a tax advantaged account. Well, I've already maxed out my IRA and my HSA for the year, but I have not yet maxed out my 401k. So perhaps I can see if I can put some of that $3,000 into my 401k. So again, I go to my paycheck deductions and I see, okay, what happens to my monthly excess/buffer category if I increase my pre-tax deduction by 1% to 24? Well, that drops me to around $200 a month in monthly excess and buffer. I then have to ask myself that question. Is that cash flow what I feel comfortable with? And it's a little bit tighter than I would like. Ideally, I think I would be able to have the 245 that I was at before. But I also really like how this will challenge me a bit more. And again, it's just trying to be a bit more intentional with the extra cash flow that I have and not letting it be idle. So I think I do like that 24%. So I come back over to my total investment goal category. My pre-tax category has been updated to now be 14,400. And so now I only need to invest 2,400 into my brokerage account, which I think is much more doable. But then I need to adjust my excess buffer plan again. So maybe I really would like to put the majority of that into my brokerage account anyway. So I'll keep that at 200, and then, whatever is left over, the $4 will be kept in holding. I like how this is looking. I really do. And so the last category that I'm going to talk about is pretty similar to the total investment goal. It's just my total cash savings goals. I've already gone ahead and filled all of this out just based on what these four categories are for my cash savings in my monthly expenses. I'm expecting to save around $8,400 in cash on top of what I'm investing. So that's the process that I work through. I really like to look at what my extra cash flow will be after my fixed expenses and my paycheck deductions are all taken into account. And that is the main number that I look at to determine if I can put more into investing or if I need to lower that deduction amount or anything like that. So I hope you found this helpful, even if it's not, your exact situation. Maybe it gave you some ideas for how you can plan or create your own spreadsheet or anything like that. So let me know down below. How is your planning for 2021 coming on? Have you started yet? Are you not gonna really start until you get your first paycheck in 2021? And you're like, Gen Z finance, this is great, but this is a lot of work where you can just wait till your first paycheck in 2021 and then know for sure what all your numbers are, which is a fair point. And I probably will, tweak this a little bit once I get my first pay stub for 2021. But I really like to do this kind of stuff. So again, let me know down below, how do you approach the end of the year and the planning for the next year? And I hope you all are staying safe and healthy. If you have not yet already, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and leave me a comment down below. Have a good day.